So a common warm-up drill or sprinting drill that you see people do is these A skips where they focus on the knee drive and this piston leg action of the knee. Well, I don't think it's necessarily a bad drill because it teaches you how to be bouncy. I don't think it really applies that much to running because running is rotational. It's not linear. We don't act like pistons when we run. If we did, then we would look like Legos when we ran. So there's rotation element to running, sprinting, and walking. And that's where I think adding some rotation into these skips is very useful. So what you should see is the sternum and the body rotates towards the stance leg. And that when you're skipping, when you leave the ground, you'll notice that the heel moves away and your leg spins inward. This is the same pattern that we try to promote with a lot of our sled pushes, where there's a pivot that happens on the ground during a sled push. In this drill, in the skipping drill, that pivot happens in the air during flight time. So while you're in the air, that's when the leg pivots inward. You still want to land with your foot straight ahead, but then as you leave the ground, you'll notice that the leg pivots inward and that heel moves away, so the whole entire lower body moves into internal rotation as the sternum and the torso start to rotate towards the next leg as that swing leg comes down and hits the ground. And you're alternating back and forth, left to right. Now, if that's a little bit too dynamic, too quick for you right now to learn the sequencing of that, that's perfectly fine. Start with just a march and do the same thing. Now, you're not going to be leaving the ground during the march. You'll just simply march one leg up, and that foot that is on the ground should pivot and swivel into internal rotation, meaning if your right leg is down, it's going to turn inward and push you towards that left side, and you'll see that heel moving away. This works best in socks in an environment where there's less friction, so you can actually pivot the foot. So if you're doing a marching version, it is a little bit easier when you don't have shoes on and and in an environment where there's less friction, but you can still get it accomplished. There's just not as much flight that would actually occur. That's the next layer, is taking it into skipping, where that rotation, that spiral will happen as you leave the ground, which more mimics the top end speed of running, jogging when the body is upright and tall.